For me, living local, I grew up about 20 minutes from the Vincennes campus. I actually got to know some of the students ahead of me in the programs that were looking at taking the 2+2 program. And so I stopped in one day after class to have a conversation just to see what it was about in my first year. So long before I was going to be graduating with my associates, I was kind of laying the footwork to see what it would be about, because I knew ultimately I wanted to pursue my bachelor's. Going through the program and things that stood out about the program that really made it a lot different from my associates was the fact that I was able to kind of specialize and talk about further roles for employment. For my associates, it was very focused on getting out on the machine floor, coming out of the precision machining department, going to the work field and being the toolmaker out on the floor performing the work. But the bachelor's from Purdue allowed me to kind of step back and take a bird's eye view of the operation itself and look at more options. And that's what I was looking for. So the curriculum and just the different classwork that we did based on feeding from my first degree for my associates was allowing me to look at the machine shop as a whole, or the sales department looking at, hey, now we make a product, but how do we sell that product? And so instead of just helping design a product, I'm out there, how can we perform a product? What's it need to do? Can we sell it? And what our target audience is. And the classes help me focus on uncovering more than just the initial cycle. Because in the machining program, I learned how to build the components and operate the equipment. But with the Purdue program, I learned the business cycle. Give me more options, so if I didn't want to stay on the machine shop, I could go lead into management or project planning instead of being more focused. I did it in 2 years, and there was one class left at the end of my 2 years that I took over the last summer, and that was one math class. And that was when I transitioned full-time into the workforce. I was a traditional / working for the simple fact I was working at a local machine shop in town about 15 minutes from campus while living at home. So I was averaging 25 to 30 hours a week at the machine shop working while doing my Purdue program. And they worked very closely with my school schedule to allow me to continue work, which allowed me to help pay for my tuition and just put me in a much better place when I got done with my bachelor's program. I grew up local, so I knew a lot of the areas, but what it allowed me to do is I made a lot of great friendships from different kids from different, I wouldn't even say kids, but different professionals now from different areas that I still stay in contact with on a regular basis. So I came from a machining background. One of my best friends came from the IT department. So we're very close. We come from opposite worlds, but we bonded through the classes at Purdue, and it's now formed the start of a lifelong friendship. I took a little more untraditional aspect. We had a sales class. I fell in love with it. So I took the sales side and ran with it. Straight out of college, I worked for a machine integrator, which was very close to the machining work that I did in school, but it was actually building components and building custom automation for companies. So I was out selling the automation to the companies. And that allowed me to transition back into something that I was passionate about, which was the agricultural side. I didn't want to go in to pursue ag for my bachelor's, but now I'm selling large ag equipment. And so that's allowed me to understand sales cycle, understand business styles, reading customers to help me be better thinking of a better way to help my customers, speccing equipment to their needs and understanding what they're trying to do, which was what I learned from the coursework that I was able to do through the Purdue program. I think something that sticks out to me is if you're curious about furthering your education, if you're curious about what other options are out there, and even if you are focused on, hey, this is what I want to do, take a look at it. Because it takes five minutes to have a quick conversation and say, does this fit me? And the beautiful thing about it is it's so flexible. It's not just, hey, you have to show up from class from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock every day. If you're working full-time, there's online courses that if it takes longer than 2 years, that's okay, because we all have a life to live. I came from coursework that was pre-COVID, but we did have a few online courses. So I had Dr. Tanous in person here at the Vincennes campus, but then also I had some Purdue professors from main campus that taught a couple online classes. So stuff that Dr. Tanous didn't have a course load to cover, he would have others come in and would cover that on an online perspective. So I had a little bit of a hybrid schedule, a couple online, most of it was in person, which I got to know a lot of those professors and hear their insights from where they had been and how they got to where they are now. I'm very passionate about what I do, being in large ag sales currently, and for me it's building a customer base. Something that when a customer hears my name, they know, hey, guy's got 30 years of a reputation that if he comes out to take care of me, I'm gonna get taken care of in a way that he wants to be treated. It's getting to know that I came from a Purdue family, getting to what I didn't know would be possible without having to go to main campus. But actually it's a lot more flexible. So I was able to get my Purdue bachelor's, and I take pride in that, having my diploma from Purdue. Knowing what I wanted to do was that 5-minute conversation turned into me stopping in and asking more questions. I caught some of the students in the hallway, asked what they were learning about and how it was different, because a lot of them had went through the same program I did. So for me, it was somebody older to look up to, hey, how did they do it and what are they wanting to do? Because some of them weren't wanting to stay on the shop floor. They were wanting to go straight into project management and take that more of a bird's eye view perspective into the workforce in their fields. Dr. Tanous, we sat down a lot and talked about career paths and talked about different options, and with the different courses he taught, give me a lot of perspectives in a lot of different avenues that I could take instead of just being narrow-minded for my one field. I started in the machining side, but I grew attached to the sales course that they taught, and I've ran with it ever since and absolutely loved it. For me, what worked the most was I took what everybody in my industry knew, the VU program, and getting a quality candidate out of that program, but it allowed me to transition to get my bachelor's from Purdue. When somebody sees Purdue on my resume, it's kind of helped me, guy went to Purdue. And so yes, guy went to VU and did his machining, but guy continued on to get his bachelor's from Purdue. So that's been a help I think it's given me a lot more opportunities and chances at things maybe I wouldn't have otherwise got an opportunity for. We've got a community that VU has such a great outreach to a lot of students from a broad perspective of areas, but main campus Purdue is 3 hours north. Not everybody may have the ability to transition to go to main campus Purdue, but for the city of Vincennes, I feel like it gives a lot of opportunities getting Purdue's name on the map with Vincennes. So it's in direct association, where typically this isn't the ag side, where everybody knowed Purdue for ag in Vincennes, but now we have a different avenue that opens up for a lot more people, whether it be somebody coming out of the drafting program, coming out of the machining like myself, working side by side with the Toyota program. I think it just gives a lot of different perspective for somebody to achieve a bachelor's that maybe didn't have necessarily the opportunity before that was Purdue being here at Vincennes. Actually, there was one thing that stood out the most, and Dr. Tanous was a big push in getting me to kind of get outside of my bubble. I got to do the European supply chain experience with Dr. Tanous, and that was a fantastic trip. It really allowed us to get outside of, for that trip, the US, and see how different manufacturers do their business. Getting to see Germany, the Czech Republic, and then getting into the Netherlands. 3 countries that touch each other basically, but operate completely differently. And seeing how we got to study Toyota, seeing the Six Sigma in our program, but getting to see it on an international scale. Because that was one of the classes we took, was talking about international business, different business styles. So what I'm gonna do business on the farm is gonna be different than if my counterpart, Isaac, goes to Japan to do business for working with Toyota. That's gonna be 2 different meeting styles. And for me, it was getting to get immersed into the field and see so much more than I ever knew was out there. And I don't think I would have got that opportunity had I not pursued the Purdue degree and had somebody that helped mold me into who I am now. And I'm very thankful for that. About that trip, I got some close relationships with a couple of the students while I was there that we still keep in contact, even though we live 6 hours apart, still getting to touch base. For me, I was always a history buff growing up. So getting to go to Germany and see buildings that were older than the United States, it was amazing. Any student, if they've got the ability, they need to take a trip and get outside of small town USA. Small town USA is where I've got my roots, and I wouldn't be who I am without it. But the different tools that I was given along the way helped mold me into who I am. So getting to go to Europe, seeing how Germany workplace is, how their engineers do their task compared to how I've seen engineers here do their task. It's really enlightening to just see the different perspectives, because there's more than one way to get to the correct solution. And it's entertaining to me and fascinating to see the different work styles and the culture. Our culture is very different than, say, the Czech Republic. I mean, one thing I got to learn about while I was over there was the Soviet regime. That was fascinating because I'd only read about it in history books in high school or what I'd researched online, but to actually see where that took place was fascinating. One of the neatest things I got to take place was when we were in Prague. There was a monument right there next to the bridge that was from the firefighters of Prague in remembrance of the firefighters that lost their life in 9/11. So it was really neat to hear that a community 5,000 miles away, their heart went out to us in our time of need. And it really made me think, you know, even though we're a different country, we're all people. So that was one of the things that just really stuck out to me while I was over there. One of the big things, you know, talking about the meeting styles I hit on earlier, was when we did our study abroad, I got to meet business professionals, lawyers for the state of the Netherlands. We got to attend some Rotary Club meetings. That's something I'd never been a part of in my life. But then as I transitioned into the workforce, I found that I was working with different countries. I had customers in Spain, I had customers in Italy, I had customers in the Netherlands, and different vendors. So for me, I'd go to a convention, and like one perspective was I went to Las Vegas for a convention. I got to meet a lot of people that normally I only correspond with in email or having a meeting with over the phone, and one of us would get up at early in the morning or one of us would stay up late just to catch that meeting. If you're curious, have a conversation. Start out with a phone call. There is so many options that can transition, and that this bachelor's degree gives you the horizon, because there is no set path that you have to take. So if you're in the job force currently and you're curious about, hey, I went to VU 5 years ago, 6 years ago, but you know what? It'd be really nice to go ahead and get my bachelor's degree. You don't have to take the time off work or go back to a full-time student just to achieve that degree. There's a flexibility of getting your bachelor's to help you become a better person in your workplace, or if you want to transition into a different career path. So I think one thing, if you're looking at even coming in from the VU side, you know, tuition can be a scary thing. But there's a lot of employers out there that are looking for great candidates that, having a simple conversation, if you fit the right criteria, they will help pay for that program to get you into their workforce. So for a lot of employees, it's a potential to go to college and get their programs covered by a future employer. So I think it's really important, if you don't know to ask, the worst thing they can do is tell you no. So always ask.